So, welcome to the Mario Experience. Today we have what a lot of people call serial entrepreneur, one of my early mentors in the real estate business, Preston Brown.
Mentor, friend, antagonist, enemy. Man, it's fun to be here.
A little bit of everything, right?
Right? Like, we have a cool history.
Yeah. Preston, just wanted to catch up with you. I know that we've talked about putting this podcast together. We talked about a month ago, but you've been just back and forth pretty much everywhere. And I want El Paso to know, if they don't know, a little bit about who is Preston Brown. Where'd Preston Brown start? Where'd he come from? Where's he going? Where is he?
Cool. Well, I'll start with back when I was a little girl. Just kidding. I guess you want like the entrepreneur journey or?
Yeah, the entrepreneur journey.
So my entrepreneur journey probably started, it did start. I was 7, 8 years old. We lived in a little shit trailer park in Cañetillo, and Dad wanted the life we watched on TV, not the one that we had in our shit trailer park. And he was a metallurgical engineer by trade, brilliant man, genius level guy. I mean, he was a member of Mensa and everything. And so he was my hero, naturally. If you ever see him versus me, like broad shoulders,
yeah.
So he's my stepdad. But he picked me, and so I just love this guy. And so he tried his hand at entrepreneurship. Didn't know billing, didn't know charging, didn't know collecting, went to worked fucking 8 a.m. to sometimes 9 p.m. in a little shed next to our house. I remember we stole one of those HVAC coolers from somebody's yard. Probably shouldn't say that on a podcast. But we did that to make sure he stayed cool and didn't die of heat stroke. And, one day the fight came. Broke people, run out of money quick. He worked, and he gave his passion like people do. And I don't remember my family fighting. I remember, there was a ton of love. We didn't have money, but we had love. And the fight comes, the frying pan gets thrown across the room. I don't remember all the words, but they were yelling. And Mom says a real man can feed his family. Go collect what you're owed or don't come home. And I went with Dad. We got into his 1950-something Ford truck. We drove up to a house not far from where I live now. And I watched this guy all of 5'9", a guy that my dad at 6'4" could kill with a napkin, just rip him to shreds. It started broad shouldered, hey, I'm here because you owe me money. And the shoulders went forward, and demanding went to asking, and asking went to eventually begging, and dude, I can't even go home unless you pay me. And a wad of money came out of the guy's pocket. And I'm 7, so you don't underwrite this shit at 7.
Yeah.
At least not well, but I could tell he was getting cheated, and it was the first time I'd ever felt hate, and I fucking hated the guy. And I learned from that experience. I learned that love is not the meaning of life. It's money that's the meaning of life. In that moment, one of my greatest teachers was my dad, because I wanted to be just like him, and this guy was taking from my dad. So that turned me into an entrepreneur. I mean, my first business was stealing lemon juice packets from Grandy's and selling them at school for 10 cents each. I got caught, and the manager was awesome, maybe my first mentor. He made me buy them and sell them. And then I started painting driveways, $10 a driveway, and lying to people about how it would be used later so the ambulance could find their house, God forbid. And it was for charity. It wasn't. I just kept the money. But you do 100 driveways in a weekend, you make pretty significant money. It was better than minimum wage. And
so you had a nice little back story as to why you had to paint their driveways and sell them the service.
You always sell with a story. Facts tell, stories sell. But the real entrepreneur journey kind of hit like we knew each other before. Life's a bunch of moments, right? And it's moments that have meaning, that impact you. The real journey, because I spent my life, I was aggressive, I was cutthroat, I was definitely dangerous. I knew my way around a fucking boardroom, I knew my way around a legal letter, I knew my way around a business. And I built some businesses that were worth millions or multiple millions, and I was successful in the hustle culture that we have now. In 2019, Dad went to sleep in his favorite chair, and he went home. And that for me was the worst day of my life, and maybe the best day of my life too. Excuse me. I tell this story every fucking time. And then if I do it on a Zoom podcast, I could tell it. If I do it in person with a person actually looking at me, there is something better about in person. But it kind of fucks with me to tell the story. But I remember that day like it was yesterday, because it confronted me. I'd spent my entire life from 7, 8 years old to 2019 chasing money. Money was my God. I'd built some businesses and all that, and I had missed the exact fucking thing that I wanted. I'd missed Dad. I built it for Dad, and I was pissed at him for leaving, and I was pissed at God for taking him, and I was pissed at myself for not spending time with him. And that entire time, like I made money, I did well, but I was a shit husband. I was a shit father. My dad was a better dad to my kid for the first 3-4 years of his life than I was, and still repairing some of that now. And I remember getting there to the house, and I remember seeing Dad, body on the floor, gone. He wasn't there. The corpse doesn't look the same as a person, but I remember like just this waking up moment happening, that I was looking around and I was seeing everybody there, and I was like, I want to be around these people. I chased money for most of my life, and I missed time with my hero. And I stopped giving a flying fuck. And this is what's really cool in the entrepreneur space, because I promise there's a meaning to the story. What's amazing is when I started focusing on automation so that I could have time with my loved ones, my businesses went exponential. Every single company grew. We're all taught to hustle. We're all taught that, the customer's always right. Oh, you got to do more. Oh, it's such a fucking lie. A business is a vehicle. You can walk to a store, or you can drive in your vehicle. One way you're going to get there slowly, one way you're going to get there quicker, and you can carry a lot more shit. That vehicle's automated. Yeah, you may still have to drive it, but now they have self-driving vehicles, depending on the business you want. I think every entrepreneur journey, like if they're real and authentic and no bullshit, they start somewhere. 2019, I relearned that love is the meaning of life. I still care about money, but not in the way that I did. Now it's a tool. It's no longer my God. And now I worry more about how much I can give every year than how much I make. And I've got an amazing relationship, like developing and getting better every day with my wife. Like she's my best friend now, and I could not have said that in 2018. Like my kids, I get to go to all of their events, all of their games. Like I get to see them growing up. Like they still think I'm cool. Maybe that's they're still young thing, but like,
right.
It's so fun. And now people hear my name and they're like, oh yeah, that asshole, he probably cussed me out 10 years ago. If you're watching this or hearing this, I apologize. I probably fucking did. For whatever it's worth. Still build businesses, still like it, still a chess game, still fun, excited about the economy and where it's going. I think it's maybe, and people don't know this yet, going to be one of the best economies for people in and around the housing industry over the next 5-10 years. Maybe one of the best. Everybody on YouTube has a different clickbait about how we're going to crash and burn and die. It's, I think, fundamentally mostly bullshit. There might be a crash, but it's not going to hurt us that bad. But I think we're going in for some good shit soon.
Some good shit coming up. Now, speaking of that, the residential space and what's coming, you're in the residential space in a very big way. You're a builder for one of El Paso's top, you're one of El Paso's top builders, Zia Homes. Tell us a little bit about that.
Oh, Zia. Zia it's almost like another kid. It's a fun company. We bought it when it was doing 30, maybe 40 homes a year. It had gone down substantially from its glory days. And we just put in the principles of, growth at first, and then bought it in 2018, lost Dad in 2019. So it was kind of the first business that got all the attention of automation, and it took off. We have incredibly quick construction times, incredibly healthy margins, very low completed spec inventory, incredible culture. We've got 296 homes under construction today. We're better than 50% sold, which keeps the banks happy. We have our hiccups. There's little issues, like you might have seen the newspaper article about that village at Westside Desert Crossing neighborhood. So you have your issues, but the business and the success we've generated is so much bigger than the issues that something that I might have been fearful could take me down 5 years ago, 10 years ago. Now it's sort of like, oh, well, shit, that's annoying. That's going to cost me $100,000 a month for 3 months. It's kind of a funny thing that we've built this big, huge thing, and people from the outside looking in, they're like, wow, that's successful. But you still have problems. You still have bumps. Success is interesting. Zia's a great story of a masochistic love for problems. And home building is the most fun industry I've ever got into because it's not one business. Like it is like 10 businesses in one. And I mean, you know plenty of builders just like I do, but like I guarantee you go talk to Carlos and he's going to be like, it's not the same as like having a roofing company and selling roofs and delivering on what you're doing, right? Like you're not speaking one language. Like the electrician speaks a different language than the roofer, than the sheetrocker, than the accountant, than the customer. So you're literally in this like multilingual situation where you have to speak the language of each industry and you have to create alignment, and problems present themselves so quickly. So I've always had a love for problems. I wasn't ready for it at that pace. And Zia, we have just gotten very close to our problems, showed them love, had many breakthroughs. You know why they call a breakthrough?
Why?
Because something fucking breaks. Okay? You know how you get to a breakthrough?
How?
You fall in love. There's no controlled landing. It's a fall, right? And so you fall hard enough to break through. Well, the beauty of the fall is whatever's at the bottom where you're going to impact, that's the problem. So if you're paying attention as you fall, you're learning a lot about that problem as you're arriving there. And so Zia, well, we're trying to create alignment with lender, vendor, trade, venture capitalists like Rocky, like bankers, accountants, IRS, customer, you name it. One alignment compromises another alignment, which makes things very complex. So it's sort of like, who are you pleasing today? And so Zia forced us into kind of the technology space. We realized, let's get out of the building space, not out, but let's not be a home builder like everybody else. Let's be a tech company that happens to build homes. I was showing you some of it, and we can deep dive in it if you want. Like, Zia has become successful not because of me, because of the technology that is allowed for the efficiency and the speed of communicating all those different languages. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So, the typical language barrier or language that is spoken, like you said, the electricians talk very differently than the framers and the stucco people, than, so on and so forth. But you said you've created a system that allows everyone to speak kind of the same language or be kind of on the same page?
Yeah, we've created a software which is effectively, it's a Tower of Babel, if that makes sense, to where everybody is kind of communicating the same language to build the same thing in the same direction. And it's not perfect, but it's getting closer and closer to perfection, where if you go to a software developer and you have them develop you something, they're not doing what you're doing. So there has to be a lot of assumptions, and if you don't understand technology and what it is and how it revolutionizes things, then you can't achieve those things. So we had to develop this Tower of Babel that didn't understand just capacity and throughput, but it also has to understand sales and marketing. Like, any marketer wants to sell 100 homes a month, right? Well, can your framers frame 100 homes a month? And I know the answer because mine can't and yours can't. Nobody has enough framers to frame 100 homes a month in one building organization. I mean, the industry closes, 160 to 250 new homes every month? Well, that's a really good indication on how many frames we can get put up, right? So, yeah. And if there's 40, 50, 60 builders, divide that out. So your capacity within this languaging technology model, your throughput has to help your salespeople limit your sales. Like if you're selling too much in one area to go with your capacity, and you might have different capacity in different areas. Like you and I might sell more in the Tierras than we are in Enchanted, just due to price point, right? So this model can catch and predict capacity and throughput and tell you, oh, you don't have enough trades of this. Oh, go get that. Or it can tell your team, like, hey, we're selling a little bit too quickly. We need to raise the price to slow down sales here, which the builder would never hate. And you might also say, hey, we need to raise the price to slow down sales here, and or at least so that the team can get caught up. And by the way, by raising that price, you're having a warranty issue on this one product. You now have a new budget to go invest in that, so you're not going to have a warranty. I mean, all of these departments, whether it's costing, warranty, plan design, starts and dealing with the city, the construction lenders, the soils test municipalities, sales and marketing, they all have very different languaging. Like, I mean, in construction, every trade has a different language. Like when you go to your office and you speak realtor, is that the same as when you're talking to your roofing crews?
No, not at all.
It's a completely different language, right? Like now, you may both be in English or both be in Spanish, but your dialect of business shifts completely. And so this tech is just a languaging model that increases efficiency and decreases time and allows us to see where the problems today are. And so I'd love to take credit for Zia, but I'll take credit for one stupid idea which I heard on YouTube, which was become a tech company doing the shit you do. And I wish it was me that said it.
Yeah, I mean, that makes a lot of sense. Automating the entire process and speaking the same language throughout the entire process. Now, people call you a serial entrepreneur, right?
They call me a lot of things. That's probably one of the nicer ones.
Yeah, right? Builder with Zia, Reliant Property Management. We were talking a little bit about mergers and acquisitions earlier. How is that panning out for some of the businesses that you have going on?
So mergers and acquisitions, I guess I'm a serial entrepreneur because I almost think that term is overused. Like entrepreneur itself is overused, right? Like an entrepreneur is just somebody that wants to create their own future. But I like problems and I don't want to have the same day. Like if my day tomorrow is the same as my day today, I'm going to get really bored. Like I love that I'm sitting here with you. Like that's so fun because what was it, 5 or 6 years ago? We were like fighting and arguing and throwing attorneys at each other and mad at each other.
Pretty much.
And was it 5 or 6? I mean, I'm not
million or problems.
Years ago.
Oh,
how long ago was it? Yeah,
5 years ago. Yeah, 2020. Yeah. No, 6 years ago.
And now we're sitting here doing a podcast. Yeah. Like, so talk about a weird and fun and awesome day. Like I don't want the same day. Like, you know, guys like you, guys like me, you have the same day every day, you're gonna freak out. Like, I'm a hunter. Like, if you study humans over 40,000 years of human history, men hunted. Like, when you killed that animal to feed your tribe, that was a problem. Some of those animals kill you back. Like, I need a new fresh kill. I need a hunt. I think a lot of the problems with society today is people aren't doing that hunt. Like, entrepreneurs still get to do the hunt. So, like, I like the hunt. I don't know if I'm a serial entrepreneur. I think I'm maybe a nerd, and I'm an economist. And I see so much stupid shit, like really stupid shit as an economist. I'm like, why? Like, if you want to just look at like what's causing pain, it's one of two things, always. It's ignorance or stupidity. And unfortunately, I think stupidity has taken a lead in the race for winning on the stupid race over ignorance, especially if you look at what our politicians are doing. Like poly means multiple, ticks means blood-sucking arachnids, right? So polyticks is a root word, I get it. But some of the things they're doing are so egregiously bad for the general we. But as an economist, you look at those things and you're like, oh, well, I could hedge for that. Because they're so bad and so obvious, if I just did this, I'll be really successful. And what's interesting is most people have gotten so used to, I guess, their flavor of media, their flavor of interaction, their flavor of tribalism, whatever it is, that they've stopped listening, they've stopped learning, and they've stopped anticipating the problems. And even though the problems are getting bigger and easier to assess, less people are getting ahead of them. But you got into business, like you became an entrepreneur, and I've heard you built a custom home. I've heard you got really successful. I've heard commercial bankers bragging about you who had not met you as one of the best marketing teams in town. So like, you're masochistic too. Like is like you like problems as well. How's entrepreneurship working for you?
I mean, I personally, I love it, right? They say that our we get paid directly correlated to the amount of problems that we solve, or the size of the problems we solve. So yeah, like you said, solving problems every day, having new problems to solve. Because if you don't have any problems, then you're just waiting for your paycheck versus what are we going to solve today? What are we going to close today? What are we going to do today to have a different problem to solve so we can continue showing our value to the marketplace, you know? And
tell me it's not an addiction for you.
It is. I mean, it's a way of life, basically. Yeah.
I mean, it's you can have good addictions. Like, look, I'm addicted to food. I'm addicted to water. I think some people are addicted to crack. Like, I'll pick the food and water, and I'm addicted to challenges. I have this kind of weird belief that, and this is not a belief, this is a fact. You know what the leading cause of death was for women over 40,000 years of human history?
What was it?
Childbirth. So children are a freaking problem. And do you know how we leave this life? Death. Huh. So entering life is a problem. Leaving life, a problem. The best moments in life is overcoming adversity. Oh, wow. And adversity implies a what? A fucking problem. And there's this addiction to kind of that moment, like a good addiction to that moment of, oh shit, I found a solution. Like I made a little progress. I built a better mousetrap. And, you know, like now I want to take my most important time with family. But one good thing that came out of the years that I was just chasing business and growth is I'm a nerd. I built formulas. And those formulas are applicable to solving lots of different problems if you use the tools of the day. Like, are you using AI? Are you using machine learning? Are you using a CRM? Are you using any level of digital or computing power technology? Are you using social media? Are you using processes, systems? Do you have people management ways? Like, what different tools are you using, and what's preventing you from using the other ones that everybody on fucking YouTube and TikTok and everything else talks about? And you know what I found it was? Education and maturity. I was too immature for digital technology until I wasn't, until I learned to respect it enough, which is a huge opportunity for advancement, and it keeps my days fun.
Yeah. Now, with that mindset of using technology to help you out and new challenges, how many companies are you currently spearheading? How many companies are you overseeing on a day-to-day operation?
So at the turn of last year, I had 18, and I shut down 2, and I didn't shut it down. I gave one away, and no, I bought out a partner in 1, 17, and I opened another. I'm still at 18. I'm at 18.
Okay, so you oversee the day-to-day operation of 18 different companies.
Kind
through
of.
management and people that you've appointed.
I'd love to say I do it all. I definitely don't do it all. Like, these shoulders are not broad enough to lift that much. I have hired and acquired the best leadership team, in my opinion. They're, for the most part, young thinking. Like, you know, don't have a problem with how old you are. Don't care how old you are. But you need to be able to learn. That's the single greatest cause of ignorance or stupidity, is the inability to learn. And I don't have a problem with ignorance. As long as the pain that hurts you, you learn and you don't redo it. That's where stupidity applies, right? But we have this management team that is so incredible and so collaborative and so open to being challenged. Like we've all worked in different businesses where there's culture issues and people have big egos and this, that, and the other. I think our egos are they're that thing that motivates us to do more, but our ability to compromise our ego is the ability to maintain the more that you've actually done. Because if you have a big ego, it's not you can't do it. You can, but you're going to lose it if you can't compromise your big ego. And like yesterday, I watched one of our C-suite team members that had a big blowout with another leader in our teams. And I don't want to say names because I'll screw things up for public, but they had a big blowout a few weeks ago on something that was not necessarily irrational to blow out on. But the C-suite team members, he realized he was wrong. And he went in and said, hey, you know, can we talk for a few minutes? Shut the door, not to attack, not to fight, not to anything. And he said, man, I really fucked up. I apologize. And the level of character that demonstrates, like, that you can apologize when you were wrong. I mean, have you seen a politician do that? Because I haven't. I haven't seen a leader of our country do that. I don't see most social media influencers do it. I don't see anybody in leadership really apologizing, and it's one of the greatest skill sets. And so if you have a culture of being willing to apologize, how successful are you going to be? Like, these guys are humble enough to learn. And so do I oversee 18? I guess I oversee amazing people that oversee 18.
Right. Yeah. Through, like I said, through your management team and through the people that have been appointed to do so. There was all the buzz right now is about the new NAR, you know, the lawsuit and the settlement and all that. How do you think that's going to impact the real estate space? You know, just from someone who's been through, you know, down economies, great markets, bad markets. How do you think this new NAR ruling is going to impact the real estate community and you as a builder?
So I think builders are going to do very well, and I'll get into the context of why. I think realtors, there's going to be some change, okay? The people that don't have to worry is those that are the best. If you are the best, you don't have to worry. Like, there are still travel agents. They're the ones that were the best. There are still high-priced stock brokers and investment brokers. They're the ones that are the best. But if you look at, like, so here, let's dive in, okay? Let's dive into what I think is going to happen. NAR settled. NAR, in my opinion, royally screwed the residential real estate industry. But they did it after the industry screwed themselves, okay? Like, more than a decade ago, before you're in my time. The residential real estate brokers did something I think that was incredibly stupid. They gave their data to all the fintech companies to syndicate on Zillow, on Realtor.com, and all these different big brands that were not brokerages. Use that to market to buyers and were more unified because they were giant corporate efficient structures than the group that was the residential realtor we. And they use that to get the attention of the buyers. And money follows attention, right? And so the residential brokers gave away their data. Commercial brokers, if you look, they did not. They all still work for franchises. They all still, work where the lead networks are. Like, if you look at brokerages, even residential ones, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, you called Century 21 or Coldwell Banker. There was no Mareg, there was no Summis, and if there was, they were really small. And the reason is the buyers knew the brands. The buyers called.
Yeah, they called for the brand.
Right. And if you were the agent that sat up desk, you got the lead, okay? Now, the legal structure of residential real estate and these big tech companies already went to war with the brokerages, okay? They just didn't realize that they went to war the wrong way. They went to war with the brokerages by taking the buyers back and selling the leads directly to the realtors, which made the brands and the big brokerages and the big money in the brokerage space worthless. And you've seen commission splits rise, where the agents got more of the meat of the money and the brokers got less. Well, this is fascinating and interesting because legally, correct me if I'm wrong, but you're a broker, right?
Yes.
You still have all the risk.
Yep.
Even though 10 years ago, you might have got a 50 or a 40% commission split, 30% if you were a high split brokerage to you. And now, like 90-10's a fucking decent split if you're the broker, right? Like, flat fee is a fairly common thing, but you still have all the risk. And so this is disproportionate. The problem is for the fintech companies that wanted to shut down brokerage and lower the cost of exiting the homes that all the big companies, the BlackRocks, the Blackstones were buying, because I don't know if you knew this, 18% of single family homes are bought by Wall Street companies. And I bought what? Somewhere 30, 40, 50 homes last year, and I'm not Wall Street. That means somewhere between 1 and 2 in every 5 homes sold is sold to an investor, not a homeowner. 86% of home buyers that were going to buy last year decided to wait a year. That was a statistic they came out with. Not that I put a lot of stock in statistics, but either way, it's still too high. And so they decided to wait, right? And these big companies, they have the cash to do this. Well, what did they do to the stock market? They killed all the high-cost stockbrokers. They turned it into a giant casino. If you Google this right now, and I hope all the realtors that are watching this do, Google, will corporate America own 60% of single-family homes in 10 years? There are predictions all over the place that they will. Well, if you're corporate America and you're buying all these assets, turning the residential real estate market into a casino, and then you use your fintech company buddies to destroy brokerage, yet all the buyers who have liability on the broker who doesn't have a margin don't sue, because that was where they screwed up. They thought that when the brokers lost margin and the agents gained margin, that people would actually sue the brokers would go away. They didn't. People don't sue in residential real estate as much as maybe they could or should or whatever, right? So now what are they doing? They're going after the agents. They're going after the bonuses. And they've gone in, and that NAR settlement is damning. And where I see it is really damning to residential realtors, specifically buyer's agents, not the top agents, okay? It's damning to us as buyer's agents because there's all this solidarity now where we're putting 3% in our Facebook posts and all this shit, but are there too many realtors considering the amount of closings on the MLS?
100%.
Okay. Did you know there's twice as many realtors in America as there are farmers? Yet we've had crazy fucking food inflation. Mm-hmm. Okay? And we have more realtors than we have homes closing. And if people suck at what they do, what's the first thing they lower? Is it the price to try to get business? So you have all these realtors making their fucking Facebook posts with solidarity. Oh, 3%, cool. It's going to be a matter of time. Could be 6 months, could be a year, could be 2 years before all these buyer's agents realize, oh shoot, we're fucked. We need to get listings because we're obsolete, because the MLS can no longer be used to market commission to me. I have to find a way to outmarket myself. I have to beat all the fintech companies. I have to beat everything. The real money is in being a listing agent. That is what really significantly just changed. And the people to become listing agents, because there will be a major push for this, and residential real estate agents are not united. We have this good guy, bad guy concept like you and I used to have, even though, fuck yeah, bro, now we're here, right? We have this good guy, bad guy concept, so we don't unite. So that solidarity is going to fall to shit. And when that solidarity falls to shit, you're going to see a lot of these unsophisticated ones lowering the price. And what are they doing? They're just going to pay the buyer's agent less. So you're going to see 6 on average. I know there's no studio commission, but that's going to go to 5, 4, 3. It might go to 2, whether it's 1 and 1, because these people are just going to need to make a living. And they're not sophisticated. They don't know how to target the customer's needs. That's what I see happening. Could it be in 6 months? Could it be in 18 months? Could it be in 2 years? Yes. But I see the residential real estate industry feeding upon itself, okay? And this has happened in other industries where big public companies have come in, put a lot of money, invested in it. It's happened in the stock brokerage world. It's now going to happen in the real estate brokerage world. Why? Because if you're BlackRock and you're going to put $1 trillion into housing over 10 years, your plan is to exit in 10 years at a profit, correct? Mm-hmm. What's the highest cost when you exit? Is it the fucking realtor? So who should they just wipe out using the legal system? The realtor. Yeah. It's really interesting. Nobody knows exactly how it's going to play out, but I'll guarantee you, just like they wanted the realtors to feed on the brokers and the litigation to kill the brokers, I think now they want the realtors to feed on each other, which will diminish the population of realtors, lower the average commission, and it's going to squeeze the agent community. I think that is going to be phenomenal for builders. You know why? Because you at Point, me at SIA, Saratoga, Edwards, Classic, Carefree, any builder in El Paso, we've got the margin, the ability to be a safe way for them to get 3%. Some builders, if they're heavy on inventory, can still do 4 or 5. And based on the pain that's going to be happening as the listing agents feed on the buyer's agents, chasing business, trying to maintain relevance, the builders are going to boom yet again. I think that builders are going to continue to boom additionally outside of this NAR settlement, even though that's huge news, just based on other economic facts alone, okay? Like you look at the fact that in 2018, we had 5 million too few units in housing. Did you know that?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Do you think we improved that based on production of new housing, or has it gotten worse?
It's gotten worse.
It's gotten way worse, okay? Mm-hmm. Supply chain issues, even though there was demand and great rates during COVID, we couldn't keep up, okay? We did not build enough to meet demand. You add to that migration, which dynamically offsets where the demand is, and you add to that immigration, like people going high tax state to low tax state, and then you add the open border, which I don't care about your politics. I know everybody's gonna be like, they'll watch your podcast, they'll have to make a comment on the open border. Please say something about the open border. We don't fucking care. But we should, if we're smart, rather than getting angry, look at the cause and effect. How many of those folks do you think are really gonna get deported that came across the border? If we don't go Democrat or Republican, but rather we go human, and we say, okay, millions and millions and millions. We don't even know how many gotaways there are. There's estimates I've seen as high as like 18 million new people here. Like, you know, the state of New Mexico has like 2.5, 3 million people. 18 million new people. Like we're approaching 10 New Mexicos. Like what the fuck? Just entered our country. Like that will create demand for real estate with bedrooms. And I don't care what the politicians say. Supply and demand always wins in the long run. That demand is going to help builders. And frankly, we're not going to deport them all. They will probably be helping us build a lot of the new construction that we need because demand is so depressed. Or demand is high, but supply is so depressed. Like we need to meet the demand.
Yeah. So, I mean, with that being said, I think right now is the perfect time for an agent. Well, number one, for the agents that suck to get the fuck off, right? Leave the industry, go work somewhere else.
If you are not 100% committed, now is the time to plan your new career and find something you are passionate about because it's going to happen either way. Like there's going to be a meat grinder in the next 10 years for sure, maybe as low as 2 years, but for sure 10. And you don't want to be chewed on in that meat grinder. So if you are not 100% in, if this is not your full-time gig, if you are not absolutely passionate, it would be wise, like I'm not telling anybody to do anything, but it would be wise to get the fuck out. Because when you're chewed by a meat grinder, probably does suck.
Yeah. And the ones that are doing it 100%, I think part of the reason why this was so successful and part of the reason why this grew the way it grew is because in this industry, there is a lot of agents that are overpaid based on what they do, right? Based on what I mean, personally, myself and people on my team feel that we're not overpaid because we have a marketing team. We have great strategies. We go above and beyond, but there is some agents and some brokerages out there that it's just, hang your license here and do this part-time, do this on a Saturday whenever you get a chance, and they don't know how to explain things. They don't know what they're doing, and they're really messing it up for the rest of us.
Yeah,
wouldn't you agree?
Well, it's going to happen. And now that we've seen that, the buyers and sellers didn't sue, and all of a sudden there's new class action lawsuits that are, $400 million settlement, changing the way things are happening. Like, you can't stop things, but things can be slowed down. I think our lobby has done a good thing of slowing things down in the realtor world. Inefficiencies are going to be cleaned out in that industry because housing is a dynamic need, and it is now starting to be uttered from every politician's lips. So to think that they're not going to do something to clean that space and support their donors who are investing heavily in housing and do not want to pay for inefficiencies and see a clean market would be foolish. But for good agents, for good anyone, like really, if you're good at what you do, if you're the best or in the top 10, you really have nothing to worry about. Like, I don't think the residential real estate industry is going to go away. Okay, like, let me give you some facts. There's more money spent on candles now than when they were used for lighting. There's more money spent on horses today than when they were ridden to fucking work. And I don't think you rode a horse here with all this equipment and technology and all this shit. So, like, that means the markets didn't go away, they changed.
Yeah.
And the brokerage market is going to change. Like, it's 100%. And it's been being talked about for 15, 20 years, but now it's here. And we don't know everything that's going to come, but you can infer a lot of things, and it would be smart to look at that, especially if your livelihood depends on it. Like, I hear people say, "Oh, don't take it personal," and I'm like, "What? How? I'm a person. How could I not take it personal? Like, what does the fucking word personal mean? It means person, and don't take it personal. Look, you have to take it personal. If it feeds your family, you fucking take it personal, right? So maybe don't get offended, get real, but definitely take it personal. You need to look at this as very serious. If you're an agent or really anything in the residential real estate space who is inefficient and you are not committed to becoming efficient, it's probably a very wise and safe idea to get out.
Well, with that being said, just two last things. Pieces of advice that you would give, number one, to an entrepreneur that's just starting, right? And number two, to a real estate agent who is just starting as well, coming from someone with the experience that you have.
So I look at realtors and entrepreneurs the same way. I think a realtor is an entrepreneur, okay? I'll tell you maybe a couple things. One, problems are gifts, and the people that suffer the most are those that are entitled to think that they shouldn't have any fucking problems. So that's one. Two, I heard this from, I think it was Michael Beckwith. I spent some time with him in Santa Fe recently this year, and the guy was brilliant. And he said, religion is a great way of avoiding hell, but spirituality is going there, conquering the motherfucker, and coming back victorious. I don't know if he said motherfucker. I added that in. And while I'm a Christian and I consider myself that, I want to make sure that I'm spiritual and always learning. And what he meant by it, because I want to clarify it, anytime you say religion, abortion, politics, or anything like that, people get triggered, right? When I say the word religion, I mean a set of rules and traditions. Rules don't die, okay? Like when a politician makes a law, that's forever. You're not forever. I'm not forever, but the law is. I was reading that the state of Texas, and like our legislature, our law structure, has laws where you or I could shoot a Native American from the second floor of a hotel window, but not a buffalo. And I'm sure there might have been some town somewhere that was getting raided by a Native American tribe a few hundred years ago or some shit. But I don't think that law should be credibly on the books today based on whatever circumstance was there. Okay. And maybe they've removed it. Hopefully they've removed it. But it's just kind of funny that these laws don't go away. And so have less fucking rules. Okay. And then the last piece of advice I would give, the meaning of words is so incredible. I've been on just this kick where the meaning of words is important. And one of my favorite words is ownership. And people misinterpret and they misunderstand ownership. I think most people think ownership begets possession. And I don't feel that ownership does beget possession. Ownership begets responsibility. Responsibility begets possession. And people want to skip the step of responsibility, okay, and go straight to possession. And that does happen. The problem is it's not you possessing that thing, it's that thing possessing you. Like, when you hear the gurus and the yogis and they say things like thoughts are things, you know what the word Satan means in ancient Aramaic?
No, I don't.
Crazy thought. So if you look at like Christ in the good book on his 40-day fast, and here comes Satan, like, hey, why not turn this stone into bread? Get behind me, Satan. Get behind me, crazy thought. And all of these realtors and young entrepreneurs and people out there, they're doing that ownership to get possession. And their thoughts become things, and their thoughts possess them. They think it's going to get them an opportunity. Make ownership about responsibility, and you will possess things. Make ownership about possession, and those things or those ideas or those concepts will possess you. Like, I don't believe there are demons that run around and possess people, but I've seen plenty of people possessed by stupid ideas, stupid thoughts, because they don't know the meaning of a fucking word.
Well, that was pretty deep. Thank you very much, Preston. I really, really appreciate you
Thanks
coming
for
out
having
here,
me, man. It's an honor.
I appreciate it. There it is. Boom.